You know, M had a different thing going on, like him and Proof.
Mm-hmm.
Proof cussed him out a couple times.
What happened was Suge tried to shake Proof hand, and Proof was like, you said you killed Pop, get out my face. He just lights the cigar, and it's about Suge. He light the cigar, and he trying to see what you gonna do. So Eminem, 50, everybody outside. This is when I knew Eminem was real. He's like, I don't give a f***, man. This is when I knew, I'm like, damn, Eminem is a real 50 outside, what's up?
Eminem and his ride or die Proof might not be the first names that pop up when you think of straight up gangster rappers.
But them Detroit niggas kind of crazy, bro. Them 7, 8 mile, them niggas always been crazy.
But trust me, the way they moved told a whole different story. One particular incident was so wild, it left everyone stunned. Even 50 Cent and the whole G-Unit squad were like, wait, what just happened? See, coming out of Detroit, fear was never part of their DNA. That raw, unfiltered energy earned them respect from every corner of the rap game. And when you mix loyalty, grit, and a little chaos...
Where were you shot?
In my hands, my legs several times, like 5 times in my hands, and then in my legs, and then in my...
That's a recipe people never forget. Now let's talk about the bond between Eminem and 50 Cent. Everybody knows it's legendary, while one of the most unshakable friendships in hip-hop history. What keeps fans fascinated is how completely opposite these two are. 50 Cent, he's the streets personified, hustling, beefing with real gangsters, dodging death more times than most people change apartments.
Yo, Fifth, first off, I want to say happy birthday. Secondly, I want to remind you of the verse you did that made me want to quit rapping. Picture a perfect picture, picture me in.
Eminem to me is what Dr. Dre is to Eminem.
Yeah.
So to disrespect him in any way is just you out.
This man survived 9 bullets and still walked away like it was nothing. That's not just street credibility, that's survival on another level. Eminem, though, had his own battles. He didn't grow up cushioned either. Detroit's poverty, addiction in the family, and a community that didn't exactly roll out the red carpet for a white kid trying to rap in a black-dominated art form. He had to claw, scratch, and spit every bar like his life depended on it just to be taken seriously.
To sneak him in there into the lunchroom, right? And I used to be like, they should be like, we want to battle you, Professor. Like, nah.
But here's the thing. Unlike so many others, M never tried to fake being a gangster. He wasn't about throwing up signs or flexing with fake stories. What you saw was what you got. Pain, anger.
Proof told Suge in the party, you killed Tupac. You could ask anybody. Proof was a wild. I always respected Eminem, 50, and that was with us. So Suge came, he had some Mexican niggas. Now we from New York. You ain't never seen a with a tattoo on his forehead. Lights the cigar, and it's about Suge. He light the cigar, and he trying to see what you gonna do. So Eminem, 50, everybody out.
Talent and pure hunger. That's exactly why his friendship with 50 clicked so perfectly. 2 men from different walks of life who understood struggle at its rawest form. Together, they became one of the most feared and respected duos hip-hop has ever seen. But here's the part people don't give enough attention to. Before 50 Cent ever came into the picture, there was Proof. Proof wasn't just Eminem's best friend.
This is when I knew Eminem was real. He's like, I don't give a man. This is when I knew, I'm like, damn, Eminem is a real 50 outside, what's up?
So far as Eminem checking me, that's a laughing matter, you know. I mean, it's ridiculous.
He was his brother in every way that mattered. They came up on the same block in Detroit, battling side by side, climbing through the underground rap scene long before the world knew Slim Shady even existed.
I'm definitely too big to slap the shit out of you. If that's something he really want to get it, I'm quite sure I can find a little homie in his class can run it.
If you've watched 8 Mile, you remember the character Future played by Mickey Pfeiffer. That's literally based on Proof. He was the heartbeat of Detroit's battle rap culture. Proof was the one telling him, you gotta take this seriously. Step into that hip-hop shop and show these people what you can do. Without that push, without Proof's belief.
He started taking some of the recreational drugs as a joke. Because it wasn't something that he had to, do. Because he was such a health.
Eminem might never have become the rap titan we know today. Together, these two weren't posing for cameras or faking toughness, they were a real force. If you crossed them, you'd quickly learn they were not the type of guys to be played with. They walked with a kind of confidence that was impossible to fake. Heads high, no fear in their eyes, and no hesitation when it came to facing anybody. That energy alone made people stop and respect them, especially the ones who had already been through the trenches. Guys like 50 Cent and the whole G-Unit crew instantly recognized it because they knew what real fearlessness looked like up close. And if we're talking about fear, back in those days, there was one man whose very name made even industry heavyweights nervous.
At one point, you said he did 14 in one day.
Suge Knight. Suge wasn't just a label boss, he was the boogeyman of hip-hop, running Death Row Records like it was the rap version of the Mafia. Suge was infamous for intimidation, street muscle, and a reputation soaked in violence. Most rappers wouldn't even breathe in his direction, let alone challenge him. But not Proof. According to multiple stories, even G-Unit members like Tony Yayo confirmed it. Proof didn't fold when Suge pulled up. He wasn't scared to check him directly, even in front of people. There's one wild story that lives on in Detroit circles. Suge approached Proof at a party, reached out to shake his hand, trying to act smooth, and Proof straight up snapped on him, accusing Suge of being behind Tupac's death. Can you imagine the tension in that room? And the craziest part,
I remember having trouble sleeping. So a lot of it was sleeping pills, so he could go to sleep because he had problems sleeping. And then there was some ecstasy. I would have to sit there and watch him sleep to make sure he didn't go into cardiac arrest or he stopped breathing.
It wasn't a one-time thing. Proof allegedly disrespected Suge more than once, right to his face. And then came the chaos everybody still talks about. The video shoot for 50 Cent's legendary track ND Club. Out of nowhere, someone on set screamed, "Suge Knight is here!" That single line sent shockwaves through the crowd. Cameras stopped rolling, people started scrambling, because when Suge pulled up, it wasn't solo. He rolled in like a storm, 30 deep, backed by muscle that was rumored to be connected with a Mexican gang. That was Suge's style. Mob tactics. He'd roll up unannounced, flood the room with his presence, and let everyone know the death row shadow was still very real. It wasn't just about intimidation. It was about keeping people in line, reminding them that Suge Knight's influence hadn't faded. And guess who else was on set that day? Eminem. And just like his brother Proof, M didn't flinch. With Suge standing there, squad behind him, M refused to back down or show even a hint of fear. Now, if you ever ask Suge Knight about that night, he'll brush it off like it was nothing. According to Suge, there was no way Eminem would have dared to check him. In his words, he wouldn't have even needed to lift a finger. He'd just have one of his men, someone M's size, handle the situation for him. That's the way Suge tells it. But here's the twist. Too many people who were actually there paint a completely different picture. They swear Eminem and Proof stood tall, no hesitation, no backing down. That's the story that traveled across the industry. That's the story that made people look at the two of them differently. Like, these guys really had guts. No matter who was standing in front of them, they were willing to hold their ground. Sadly, that unshakable bond between M and Proof came to a heartbreaking end in 2006. Proof was shot and killed in Detroit, and the loss sent shockwaves through the entire hip-hop world. But for Eminem, it was more than just losing a friend, it was losing a brother. Proof had been there from day one, and without him, Eminem spiraled into one of the darkest stretches of his life. Nas, one of Eminem's longtime bodyguards, has spoken openly about what happened behind the scenes. He remembered that M actually started out healthy. No heavy drugs, no wild addictions, but fame hit like a storm, and the pressure of being the biggest rapper in the world mixed with the grief of losing Proof pushed him to a breaking point. What began as a joke, some recreational experimenting here and there, quickly turned into a dangerous spiral. Nas said things took a sharp turn in Baltimore when one of Eminem's assistant managers kept feeding him substances and encouraging the behavior. Looking back, Nas admitted he regretted not stepping in sooner, because from that moment forward, it only got worse. At one point, Nas even claimed that Eminem took 14 pills in a single day, an insane amount for anyone, let alone a guy whose body wasn't built for that level of abuse. The addiction didn't just creep in, it consumed him while he was trying to record his second album. According to Nas, Eminem was barely sleeping, relying on sleeping pills, ecstasy, and other substances to get through each day. Things got so extreme, that the security team literally had to sit by his bed and watch him sleep, terrified that he might slip into cardiac arrest and never wake up. Eminem stayed trapped in that dark period for a long time because Proof wasn't just a homie, he was family. Proof had been the one to see M's raw talent before anyone else, and he played a role that went way beyond friendship. He was the architect behind one of Detroit's most legendary rap crews, D12. Back in 1996, Proof had a vision that sounded crazy but genius at the same time. He wanted to bring together 12 of Detroit's hardest, sharpest MCs and call them the Dirty Dozen. But there was a problem. Finding 12 rappers in one city who were actually that dope wasn't easy at all. That's when the workaround came in. Instead of 12 separate rappers, they'd take 6 and give each one an alter ego. Boom! A dozen personalities in one crew. That's the exact moment Eminem birthed his infamous alter ego Slim Shady. Each member created their own twisted second persona. Proof became Dirty Harry, Eminem transformed into Slim Shady, Bizarre turned into Peter S. Bizarre, Con Artist came alive through Mr. Porter, Swifty flipped into Swifty McVeigh, and Kuniva stepped in as Rondell Bean. With those identities locked in, D12 was born, raw, reckless, and unlike anything else the rap world had ever seen. By 1997, they dropped an underground EP and the buzz was undeniable. Detroit streets were already whispering about them. Bizarre was crowned Inner City Entertainment's Flavor of the Week. Proof smashed the Source's freestyle battle and came out victorious. And Eminem, he had just unleashed the Slim Shady EP, the tape that eventually caught Dr. Dre's attention and changed rap history forever. But just as the crew's momentum was building, tragedy hit, and it hit hard. Before D12 became the group the world knows today, they lost one of their key members. His name was Bugs. Introduced by Swifty, Bugs had been an essential part of those early D12 days, bringing his own fire to the mix. Then on May 21st, 1999, everything went left. Bugs got caught up in an altercation in Detroit that spiraled out of control. The night ended in horror. He was shot multiple times, then run over by a car. The attack was brutal and left him dead on the spot. Bugs' death ripped straight through the heart of D12. It shook the crew to its very foundation. The energy around the group shifted overnight. Nothing felt the same anymore. At that moment, Eminem wasn't even locked in as an official member, more like an honorary presence, someone who floated in and out. But when Bugs was killed, M couldn't just stand on the sidelines. He stepped back in, at first just to cover some group obligations. What started as a temporary fill-in turned into a permanent return. The crew had always had a pact. If one of them blew up, they'd circle back to bring the others up too. And when Eminem's Slim Shady LP went triple platinum, he was one of the hottest names in the entire industry. Instead of cutting ties and leaving his Detroit brothers behind, M did the opposite. He built Shady Records under Interscope and signed D12, putting them on the global stage. From there, Proof wasn't just Eminem's brother in arms, he became his hype man on one of the wildest tours hip-hop has ever seen, the Up in Smoke Tour. That tour was basically the weed-smoking Olympics of rap, a lineup stacked with legends like Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Ice Cube, and more. Eminem and Proof carried Detroit on their backs, showing out in front of crowds who couldn't get enough of the chaos and raw energy they brought. But even in the middle of all that success, they never forgot Bugs. His memory was woven into everything they did. They dedicated both the Marshall Mathers LP and D12's debut album Devil's Night to him. And when they put together their second album, D12 World, they even included an old Bugs track, Desperados, but retitled it Bugs 97 as a permanent tribute to their fallen brother. Devil's Night was Proof's moment to step up as a leader, and under his guidance, D12 stormed the charts. The name itself carried Detroit's raw grit, inspired by the city's notorious Halloween Eve tradition where abandoned buildings were set on fire, something later highlighted in 8 Mile. That kind of darkness, chaos, and rebellion was exactly the vibe D12 embodied. After that first major run, the crew decided to slow it down. They took a 3-year break, enjoying life, stacking money, and working on solo projects. Proof even popped up in 8 Mile, playing the character Lil Tick, the battle rapper who faces Eminem's character at the very start when M famously chokes. It was a small cameo, but for Detroit heads, it was a big wink to Proof's real role in shaping M's rise. By 2004, D12 was back in the booth, and they dropped their second project, D12 World. Just like their debut, the album lit up the Billboard charts, proving their first run wasn't a fluke. But this time, it wasn't just America rocking with them. They went global. D12 World shot straight to the top in places like the UK, Ireland, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. The Dirty Dozen had officially gone international, and they weren't just Detroit's crew anymore. They were worldwide superstars. While the group rode that wave, Proof wasn't sitting still. He launched his own imprint, Iron Fist Records, and dropped his solo project Searching for Jerry Garcia. It showed a different side of him, deeper, more experimental, proving that Proof wasn't just Eminem's hype man, but a force in his own right. But here's where fate took a dark twist. In Eminem's haunting video for Like Toy Soldiers, Proof was cast as the one getting shot and killed, a symbolic reenactment of Bug's tragic murder. The imagery was powerful, but after Proof's real-life death, Eminem admitted he felt guilty, almost like the video foreshadowed what was to come. He wondered if putting that scene into the universe had brought bad karma. Yet through all the highs and lows, Proof and Eminem remained unshakable. Proof was even M's best man at his second wedding to Kim, a marriage that made headlines for how short-lived it was, lasting just 82 days. Still, it showed how tight their bond was, with Proof standing by him in every chapter. But then came April 10th, 2006, the day that changed everything. To this day, there's still conflicting information and unanswered questions about what really went down. Proof was out that night in Detroit, doing what he always did, showing love to the city that raised him. Old habits die hard, and no matter how big his star got, he never abandoned the block. Proof had mad respect for Detroit, and his loyalty to the streets was unmatched. Even though he could have packed up, moved to some mansion in the suburbs, and left the chaos behind, he refused. Instead, he stayed rooted in the same neighborhoods he came from, the same environments filled with danger and temptation. It was an honorable choice, staying loyal to Detroit and refusing to abandon the city that made him. But in the end, it turned out to be a deadly one. That night would be the last time Proof ever enjoyed a night out in his hometown. To this day, the events are pieced together from multiple accounts, but everyone agrees on one detail, the spot where it all went down. The CCC Club on Detroit's infamous 8 Mile Road became the backdrop for tragedy. Proof's night had actually started out lighthearted. He was out with 2 friends, bouncing from club to club, drinking and laughing like any other night. At one point, his longtime friend Reginald Mud Moore hit him up asking where the party was. Proof told him he was at the Coliseum, a gentleman's club, chilling with 2 others, Mac and Chop. Mud slid through, and the 4 of them spent the night turning up, chatting with the DJ, throwing money and enjoying the vibe. And from there, they slid over to another hotspot, Rolex. The drinks kept flowing, the music stayed loud, and the energy never dipped. But they weren't ready to call it quits. So instead of going home, they made the fateful decision to keep the night alive, heading straight to the CCC Club. By the time they got there, it was after midnight, rolling into the early hours of Tuesday, April 11, 2006. The CCC was buzzing, people partying hard, and Proof was right in the mix. But what started as a carefree night of fun quickly turned into the kind of chaos no one could have predicted. Reports say that around 4:30 a.m., tensions erupted between Proof and another patron, Keith Bender. Bender wasn't some random troublemaker. He was a Gulf War veteran, a former medic who had been forced out of the army due to a heart condition. That night, ironically, he was at the CCC Club to celebrate receiving good news about his health. But instead of celebration, things spiraled into disaster. Allegedly, the spark was as small as a pool game. Words were exchanged, the argument flared, and suddenly it escalated. Proof allegedly knocked Bender down during the altercation. Witnesses claim things took a deadly turn when Proof pulled out a firearm and fired 2 shots, one striking Bender in the head. As Bender lay wounded, bleeding on the floor, one of his friends reacted instantly. Both men were left fighting for their lives. Proof was rushed to St. John's Holy Cross Hospital, but the damage was too severe. He was pronounced dead on arrival. Across town, Keith Bender was taken to St. John Hospital and placed in critical condition. For 8 long days, his family prayed for a miracle, but it never came. Bender passed away, making the tragedy even heavier. 2 lives gone, one night, one chaotic club scene that spiraled out of control. As investigators dug deeper, a shocking detail surfaced. The man accused of firing the shots that killed Proof wasn't some nameless figure. It was someone directly tied to the scene. The suspect was Bender's own cousin, Mario Etheridge, who just so happened to be working as the club's bouncer that night. Suddenly, this wasn't just a random shootout. It was family ties, loyalty, and revenge colliding in a way that left the city stunned. The day after the shooting, Etheridge didn't run or hide. He walked into a police station with a lawyer by his side and turned himself in. That move alone made headlines. The man at the center of one of Detroit's most high-profile tragedies handing himself over willingly. But the shock didn't end there. By the next day, Wayne County prosecutor Kim Worthy officially charged Etheridge, but not with murder. Instead, the charges were carrying a concealed weapon and discharging a firearm in a dwelling or occupied building. The absence of a murder charge sparked outrage instantly. Proof's friends, family, and loyal fans were furious. To them, the case was black and white. Proof was gone. Etheridge admitted to pulling the trigger, so why wasn't he facing a murder rap? Prosecutors hinted that a murder charge could still be on the table, but for now, Mario Etheridge pleaded not guilty to the 2 charges he was facing. He quickly posted a $7,000 bond and walked out of Wayne County Jail, free, at least temporarily. That move didn't sit well with many in Detroit, where emotions were running high and people were demanding justice. Meanwhile, the CCC Club itself came under fire. Authorities finally forced the club to close its doors, at least for a while, after the investigation revealed they'd been breaking the rules for years. By law, clubs in the area had to shut down at 2 a.m. sharp. But according to both neighbors and police, the CCC often stayed open until 7 a.m., basically turning into an after-hours trap spot once other venues closed. The night Proof lost his life was no exception. It was well past 2 a.m. when the altercation broke out, and the CCC already had a shady history, with at least 18 police reports tied to the place in just a decade. Shootings, fights, noise violations. The list was long. Proof's death was the last straw, and the city finally cracked down on the troubled club. When the tragedy hit the news, the hip-hop world went into shock. Headlines ran non-stop. Mourning poured in from all corners, and speculation spread like wildfire. Everyone wanted to know what really happened inside the CCC that night. The rumors were endless. Some painted Proof as the aggressor, others insisted he was defending himself. The confusion only grew when the trial kicked off in September 2006. Assistant Prosecutor Elizabeth Walker laid out the state's version of events. According to her, Etheridge fired the first shot, a so-called warning shot, and that was the moment Proof realized guns were in play. From there, she argued, Proof pulled out his own weapon and fired at Keith Bender, Etheridge's cousin. In this telling, Proof's actions were a reaction to Etheridge's gunfire. But that narrative was immediately challenged, especially by Reginald "Mud" Moore, Proof's close friend who had been there that night. In an October 2006 XXL interview, Mud gave a completely different version of events. He said that when they walked into the CCC, he was actually the only one strapped. As the night went on and the crew started heading out, Mud noticed tensions rising between Proof and Bender. Mud later revealed that he actually tried to calm things down before it all spiraled out of control. But the tension inside that club was boiling over. At one point, Keith Bender reportedly shouted at Proof, "I don't care who you are," before sucker punching him. That blow turned the night into pure chaos. According to Mud, the crowd cleared the room, giving space for Proof and Bender to square up. But instead of fists deciding the outcome, things escalated fast. Witnesses say Etheridge suddenly fired shots into the air, supposedly to break up the fight. That's when everything unraveled. A struggle broke out between Mud and Proof over the weapon. Proof managed to wrestle the gun into his hands and even fired into the air himself, which only poured more fuel on the fire. The noise, the panic, the fear, the whole place exploded into mayhem. In the middle of that chaos, Etheridge allegedly aimed back in their direction and opened fire, striking both Proof and his cousin Bender. Those shots would prove fatal for them both. When the case went to trial, the outcome left many stunned. Wayne County Circuit Judge Vera Massey Jones sentenced Etheridge only to time served on the concealed weapon charge. On top of that, he received just a $2,000 fine for firing a weapon inside a building. That was it. No murder conviction, no lengthy prison term, just a slap on the wrist in the eyes of Proof's devastated family and fans. Prosecutors doubled down on their claim that Proof had fired first, insisting that Etheridge acted in defense of his cousin. They framed his initial warning shots as an attempt to prevent Proof from turning the gun on him. That narrative became the backbone of why Etheridge avoided harsher charges. Still, the whole situation left a bitter taste in Detroit and across the hip-hop world. Proof wasn't just another rapper. He was the backbone of a movement, the one who believed in Eminem before the world did. His life ended too soon, ripped away on a night that should have been just another celebration. Eminem, carrying the weight of that loss, went on to cement himself as one of the greatest to ever touch a mic, a a living icon who proved to the world exactly what Proof had always seen in him. But behind every stadium tour, every platinum plaque, there's still the ghost of the brother he lost that night. If you made it this far, sound off in the comments. Do you think justice was truly served in Proof's case? Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you want more deep dives like this.